Welcome back to another Agency Connect one-on-one. I am Sunir Shah, CEO of AppBind and president of the Cloud Software Association. I do have COVID. Finally, I won the lottery. I don't know what that means. I think, as we say in Ontario, winner gagnant, because that's how our lottery works. I'm here today with a amazing white label advertising agency, Advirtis, that I met, who has really figured out how to get out of the scalability trap, which is all we talk about these days. And they've really nailed it. I mean, nailed it. So I am very honored and thankful that I'm here with Zachary and Ozzy from Advirtis. Why don't you introduce yourselves? I'll start with you, Ozzy.
Yeah, thank you, Sonar. I really appreciate it. We're excited to be here. Thank you for having us. I kind of come in from different startups. I kind of came from the background of scaling, so I'm more of a sales background. But when we first started the agency, it was we had came from a startup together, and we were like, what's next? We're up and down roller coasters, and we're like tired of that lifestyle because we both have kids now. We kind of was ready to get in on our own, and so we decided we're like, you know what? We like to serve people. We like to serve the communities that we're surrounded by. So what was the best way to do that? And we're both good in business development, in marketing, sales. So we had decided to build out a process, and it ended up becoming a white label agency from that, finding a problem in the marketplace and then obviously creating solutions based on the outcome. So that's kind of where we came in, and I cut my teeth, like I said, in startups and business development. And, from that experience, it led me down this path of trying to serve these communities and these agencies really well. And that's where it all stems from. So that's kind of me.
And then Zach, how about yourself?
Yeah, so a little bit similar. Cut my teeth working mainly in digital marketing, working for startups in Chicago. And then from there, life took me down to Louisville, Kentucky. And so that's how I met Ozzy, working for that other startup. And then from there, we kind of just decided to create, our own brainchild, and that was Advirtis. So that's white label PPC and SEO services for agencies under their brand. We like to call ourselves the silent advertising partner. We're there working in the background, but you don't know that we're there right up front in your face.
Now, I would hope by this point most people know what a white label agency is, but assumptions are assumptions. So, what does that mean to be a white label agency? Like, who's your actual customer? What does it mean to be white label?
Yeah. So, you'd be surprised actually. I think a lot of agencies are familiar with white label, but I don't think they really understand the concepts. It's really something that's came out in the last bit that, when you look at, in any industry, competition tends to be highlighted quite a bit. And what you're finding now, especially in the last, I guess, half decade or so, that especially in this industry with marketing, agencies are realizing there's a lot of benefit in strategic partnerships. You find that agencies are niche into service instead of to industry specifics. And so then they're finding partners in their offerings, and instead of having to bring in this in-house team to manage all of these, salaries and expectations with your own internal teams, you're building partnerships to kind of tailored to your clientele, like to their needs. And that's kind of where we come in. So what we do essentially is we partner with these agencies, and we are an actual team in that we actually become a part of their team, and we only specialize in pay-per-click advertising and search engine optimization, so SEO. And because of that, they can expand their offering to their client base and trust, knowing that we are the strategic partner in these services. Um, so essentially, what we do is we work under their brand for their clients, and in return, they get to upsell these services. They get to include these services and know that they have this team of specialists without having to manage the internal, sides of it. So the benefits and the salaries and the expectations to make sure that they're working their 9 to 5s and all this, that's not up to them anymore. It's on their agency partner, which is us. So we manage those expectations, we manage those processes just to deliver to their clients essentially.
So, like, who's a typical agency customer of yours? Like, how do they brand themselves to the client? Like, how do they describe themselves to the client?
Yeah, that's actually a really good question. A lot of the agencies that we partner with are primarily design and web design agencies, but they brand themselves as full service, full stack. Nobody really wants to turn away business. You have a client saying, "Great, you did my website. Can you also do my Facebook ads? Can you also, help me out in writing blogs? Can you also do my email marketing, things like that?" And so, um, we find that we work really well and in the creative agency space. So agencies that like to come build something, the website, the logos, things like that, social media even, and then they partner with us on the more technical side because advertising SEO can sometimes be overwhelmingly technical, depending.
Well, and not even to mention that there are pretty well-developed agencies we work with that have in-house teams that manage PPC and SEO.
Hmm.
And what happens is they have a client base of 30, 40, 50 clients, and they're during the Great Resignation, their ad specialists, so SEO specialists decide to go off and work for themselves as a freelancer. So then they lose all of that, that labor to help deliver to those
Hmm.
client base. So then they are kind of stuck between a rock and a hard place. So that was the problem we had found in the marketplace with our agency friends, the owners, our friends that owned agencies. They said, "Hey, there's something going on here." So, that was another thing when we started building this process in this company. It was to help create that solution. So that took off that responsibility for them to have to interview and find and fall months behind on the process. And so then when you hired on a new SEO specialist or an ad specialist, they're not just picking up 3 months worth of work, and then trying to manage all of that and catch it back up,
Hmm.
or push that work to your account managers to try to maintain and keep those clients happy in the process. So instead, they partner with us to deliver on those accounts in the meantime while they try to find those internal people, or in even some cases, they say, "Hey, this is a really good business model. Let's just continue to do this." And so that
Hmm.
was a benefit.
Yeah, to me, it's like it shouldn't be that weird. I mean, if you in the trades, a general contractor would be someone who the client would talk to about the aesthetics of the renovation, but they would bring in a plumber or electrician to do the inside walls that no one cares about, right? Because those are extremely technical fields. It makes
Right.
sense to me. We always use this analogy at AppBind about the plumber. Like, a plumbers would never make their clients buy their own pipes, pumps. They just take care of the problem for the client, right?
Hmm.
And we're just digital plumbers in the end of the day, right? So
I like that.
all right, so digital, my friends, digital plumbers, you are. So tell me a little bit about how you package up your services, because I think this is really important about getting out of the scalability trap. Is correct me if I'm wrong, but your pricing is predictable to the agency, so they can go to the client with faith that they know how much it's going to cost. Is that right? So what's the tip?
Yes, that's exactly right. So the way that we handle everything essentially is we pride ourselves in being a part of their team. So essentially, the way that we do this is that we built the process to help them sell it, basically to become their liaison. So they don't have to even worry about their sales team essentially trying to pitch it to their clients. We even do that by setting the expectations. Um, for us, that's important because setting the expectations is what we deliver on, right? So we know the scope of work that we're managing, our team is managing, meaning that we know exactly what that looks like. And in the beginning of our relationships with the agencies, we are setting those expectations and basically training their sales team on what those expectations look like within our scope of service. So we've built the process in our scope to essentially build out a flat rate fee per month. So what all they have to do in return is mark that fee up to wherever their margin is. So we handle all the work. We even help sell it. We even deliver on the expectations and then provide a report at the end of the month. The project manager will run through that report with them and their client. We act as if we're their brand. So we get on a call with them and their client. And hey, this is Ozzy from XYZ agency, not Advirtis. And we will go through that report with them and show them show the client what they paid for in the last 30 days and say, this is what's happening. Here's the next month. This is what's going to happen next. And so the way that we had built that process was we have an in-house team that comes in. So we assign a project manager, we assign an ad specialist per platform, or an SEO specialist, depending on what their needs are. And that's how we've kind of built that into our margin. So
Hmm.
by setting those expectations up front, it allowed us the opportunity to deliver to what we have built. Does that make sense?
Yeah, well, let's break that down. Let's get specific. So, one thing that you just threw in the middle of that that I think a lot of agency owners would immediately have like knots in their stomach about is that you have fixed rate pricing. That's right.
Hmm.
So, like the agency knows how much it's going to cost when they sell put it on their quote to the client or internally cost it, right? That's really
Mm-hmm.
wild. So, um, that means you must know going into. And is it always the same fixed rate, or does it change depending on the client? Like, how do you predict
Yeah,
your
yeah.
pricing?
So for our white label partners, definitely it is the same fixed rate up to a certain amount of ad spend, but really we're talking like up to 20K of ad spend. Once you're talking about 20K of ad spend, you're talking about enterprise level client, which just is a whole new ball game in general. But for most agencies, I would argue most agencies and their clientele are under 5K of ad spend, and they have customers, multiple customers that want to spend less than $5,000 a month, and that's totally fine. And so, our flat rate pricing really accommodates that range for the majority of the clientele for our agency partners that they have, where we say this is exactly what we do. Here's when we do it. Here's a process from day one to day 30, day 60, and day 60 to day 90. And that way we set the expectations so the agency can set the exact same expectations with their client. So there's no miscommunication.
Okay, that's that leads to the next immediate question. How did you ended up figuring out? I mean, this is what Ozzy you said. I saw the press release. This is your superpower, like the process. But this is the thing. How did you figure out the process to keep your costs under control? I mean, that is what did you? How long did that take, and how did you do it?
So we had originally built, so before we launched, we built the company in about 8, 12 months. It took a lot of research and we had to decide whether or not we were going to niche to an industry or service. And we knew, we had done some things in the beginning to create some revenue, like build some websites and things like that. And we were like, what do we want to specialize in here? And so when we decided to go towards the white label, we knew from the very start they needed to have a flat rate so they knew what they were marking up. There's a clear scope of work. And then for us to automate a lot of that in the beginning. Here's the thing with automation, and I think you could see this. I've listened to a few of the other podcasts, by the way. I love it. But I think that, with automation, there's a fine line in the industry, in that, especially with agency owners, you're dealing with a very intimate topic when it comes to working with them and their clients, because that's their bread and butter. That's who they serve. That's their essential boss, if you would. So
Right.
they're working for their clients. And so, when we come in, we're strangers. They're like, hey, we got to make sure we vet you guys out and everything. And that makes a lot of sense for us because we do the same thing. And so we think that it's important in the process to have that human approach in the very beginning, to help set those expectations and so forth. But in the process, we've created some automation, like form fill outs to give us all the information for our operations team to launch an ad, to actually build the campaigns and things like that. And Zach can kind of run through a lot of that, of the details and the nitty gritty side of it. But essentially, like, we've automated a lot of the like redundant stuff within the agency, but a lot of that human touch, I think, is very important, especially in today's world where, like I said, you have to ride that fine line of automation. You can't do too much because you still have to have that humanistic approach. Does that make sense?
Yeah, actually, I had a small argument with one of my someone at AppBind, one of the customers, about this, and we were agreeing but disagreeing. One of those conversations. I said clients all they really care about is the result, so they just want you to take care of it for them. And she said no, they care about the human service. I'm like, well, I also agree with that, but what they want is you to be a friend and actually more importantly calm them down because they're always freaking out 100% of the time,
Right.
right? You bring things under control, but what they want is the end result of being back under control. But if you do it in a way that they
Yep.
like, then they'll love you as a human being, right? Then they'll invite you to the wedding if you're like doing it for them. But so it's the human service, but ultimately it's the result. And those things go. That's what
Right.
agency life is. It's like you have to deliver the cookies, but also do it with a smile, right? It's basically how it is.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Well,
Well,
in our audience is agencies. So when we're working with the agency, they want that communication because if their client comes to them
Hmm.
and they have a question that they can't answer about PPC or SEO because we're in there doing the work, they want us to answer right away.
Yep.
And because of that panic, right? And so like the clients, like we work with direct clients as well. Like our direct clients, they trust us. They know what we're doing. At the end of the day, like you said, I agree actually 100%. They just want to see results. That's what they really pay us to do. That's what they pay us to do. So that's what they want to see. As long as we're delivering on the results, that's all they care about, which is a great problem to have, by the way, because it allows us to continuously work and be consistent in our work. So, but essentially the agency side of it is a lot of, you know, a lot of the problems in white label and this is a very common thing that when I speak to an agency owner, they say, look, I have experience working with white label partners, but a lot of the times there's a lot of issue with communication. There's not really great expectations set. We don't really we have terrible reporting what we get in return, and then there's no communication. It takes 48 hours to get a response. And so that lack of communication there is what we wanted to change in what we are delivering in the marketplace for white label. And so we had created the solutions based on the feedback we were hearing from the agencies we were partnering with, from the issues they had. And so that's why I had presented and saying that it's important for us to have automation set up in the places so that a way it can give us time back to implement that to be able to give that customer service. And that's kind of what we pride ourselves in, is that we are real people serving other people. And at the end of the day, that's what matters. But at the end of the day, like you said, the catch to that is results. So the
yep.
results speak for themselves.
It's so wise when you say that. Like the automation saves you time, but then so you can focus on what matters, which is the relationship, communication.
Right.
So, I mean, so many people in the white label world, yeah, they do go away for you never hear from them because all they can focus on is lower cost, lower cost, lower cost delivery. But you
Right.
don't want lower cost; you want predictable delivery. That's what you
Mm-hmm.
need. It's different. But let's lean in this automation side. So how complicated, how wild is your automation stack? Like how much technology do you guys rely on to deliver on a client? Like what's happening? What's the factory floor
Wow.
look like?
Yeah. No, that our marketing tech stack is pretty deep. But actually, we'll do a shout out real quick to AppBind. Because we that's a great service to use specifically for click fraud protection. So oftentimes we'll have clients come in, they'll say, "Oh my gosh, I'm getting all these fake spam clicks on our ads," and we'll say, yeah, that sometimes that's a black hat marketing technique, is where you pay people to just fake click on your ads, so you spend up all your budget, and then now your competition is winning over you because your budget's spent for the month. So you can get click fraud protection. So instead of us paying for click fraud and then sending an invoice to the client for this small $50 a month fee, it's so much easier to use AppBind, where then the client can just go in and they can just pre-populate, this account that can automatically just pay for the subscription that we're using for them, and that can all kind of be bundled into whatever they're already paying for. So that just makes it so much easier to use it. So AppBind. We also like to use Monday.com for project management, Slack for instant communication. We love Google Meets, right? And then just the G Suite in general. And then we really like, some other tools for like prospecting, and some other tools that we use for like Loom for screen recording and whatnot. I find that so much easier and quicker for me to bust out a 2-minute video, going through an ad report, going through a proposal, answering clients' questions, rather than spending 10 minutes typing out the right email with the right punctuation and whatnot. So there's that. And then we also use some Dubber for like taking notes and whatnot. And then, but really, like, as far as like automation goes, Monday.com is a great work OS system, and definitely gets in the nitty gritty of automating forms, getting it assigned to the right people, making sure that you keep all your client communication in a singular place, and then also making sure that the people who are fulfilling the work know what's going on when it's going on. So project management, senior level, people, the ad specialists, everyone's on the same page. Even finance can go in and be like, what's happening with an account, right there in Monday.
I was going to
So
ask you, so
there's
you're
a few of
using
the tools.
Monday.com as a questionnaire input for these forms, and it goes into the team process. And then how do you
Yep.
Hmm.
are all your team members like full timers? Are they contractors? Like how do you onboard, offboard? Are you training people?
Yeah. So we got a little bit of a split there. But as far as the majority of our team is full timers, they're working for us full time. Um, they're in the business, they're in and out. Shout out to Josh. He's a wonderful, wonderful employee,
And
and
Olivia. Yeah.
and Olivia. Oh my
Yeah.
gosh, yeah, Olivia too. Right. I work with Josh mainly on marketing operations, and Ozzy works with Olivia on the sales side. Both of them rock. Top of funnel, bottom of funnel. Both of them really do rock. So, and then we got a few others that do really good work for us as well. We like Brandon, and then we like Sarah as well. She's a little bit newer. So, but we like I want to say all the names, but I know I can't do that in this podcast. But yeah, we really appreciate our team, and it's nice because if we happen to get maybe 50 clients, within a short amount of time that all want to start new advertising campaigns, we can maybe offload 3 of them to some contractors that we're using, in case our in-house team gets really overwhelmed because we're really trying to manage, you know, eh, reporting. They're trying to manage maybe some edits that the client wants to make to the campaign. So we have some overflow there, but I feel like fortunately we don't have to use it a whole lot.
And then how does your process allow you to flex in and flex out these contractors?
Yeah. So we basically have a level of the amount of people or the amount of clients that each ad specialist can handle. So we have a pretty good idea that each ad specialist can handle this many clients, within this time frame, depending on the platform and depending on the level of ad spend. Right? Are they enterprise? Or are they not? For the majority of the time, we have some enterprise clients, but that's not the bulk of their workload. So it makes it really nice knowing those numbers, right? And that's a conversation. Honestly, half of this is just going and looking at Josh and saying, how many accounts do you feel like you can properly manage
Hmm.
within a 30-day time span where you feel like we can still deliver on reporting, deliver on edits and whatnot, and make sure that the client feels heard, well communicated, make sure that we get to them, within a 24 to 48 hour maximum time frame. um, and that's a conversation that we have with them. So and then of course if there's any automation that we can use with monday.com, maybe that makes it even easier, right? Or other using other tools or other tech stack like AppBind or whatnot.
Well, I mean, that's the thing. Like predictability. If you get your process under control instead of being chaotic, that means you can make it predictable for your customers, the agencies, their clients, for yourselves, for your staff. It becomes a business rather than a treadmill of hell, which is another phrase we like using on this podcast.
So true.
Oh
So
God.
true. And with us building these processes out, it allows our team to take on more, but feel like they're taking on less. So not necessarily less, but it's manageable. And that was important to us when we were building the company because we both come from corporate backgrounds. We know what it's like to be at this high level and then feeling all these responsibilities being poured onto you. And so what we didn't want was our team coming in and saying, yeah, we can do this, 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 and then we start adding more on their plate as we scaled. We didn't want that. We wanted it to be
Mhm.
fair and balanced across the board. And so one of our other processes when it comes to our internal teams is we set up weekly meetings and we literally have an open conversation with everyone, making sure that they feel like they're not overwhelmed. We don't want them to be overwhelmed. If they start to feel that way, we want them to communicate to us so this way we can find a solution before it becomes to that point, before it gets to that point. So we like to work with our team internally to make sure that everyone's happy, and that's really important to us. And I think that was something that when we had built Advirtis, it was this whole mission of serving communities and serving agencies and their clients, and just to give the most back. And that included our team internally as well. And so that kind of, when we built the company, you start to see as a business owner, you start to see your own personality kind of shine through your business, you know? And it's kind of a beautiful thing to witness. I think that's one of my favorite parts about owning a business.
I do wonder now what that shows about AppBind. Is it equally crazy? My last question is about the revenue side. So one of the things, because the opportunity when you have these packaged services, as you mentioned, it becomes easier for your agencies to sell. But one thing I wanted to ask you, like, you have more than one packaged service, right? And they kind of like lead from one to the other to the other. Is that right? You have, what are you guys doing? SEO, ads, and landing pages? Is that right?
Yes, yes. And with that being said, each agency comes to us. It's usually what happens is they start and they say, "Hey, I've lost an SEO specialist, and I need you all to come in and take on these 4 accounts or 5 accounts to keep our clients happy for SEO alone." And then what happens is they're already offering PPC, and they'll say, "Hey, you know what? Let's take some of this work off of our ad specialists and let's see how you guys do." And then we kind of get in. But a lot of the times too, with a client, say an agency that doesn't offer these services up front, they're building websites or building brands. Then after the website's built, they say, or even during the website build, they offer up SEO and they didn't offer before, and then they throw that into the mix, and it's like a change order into their quote. And so then they can start adding these services on to these projects. And a lot of it is just communicating with the agencies and their sales team and trying to help them understand where to kind of plug this in to their current offering or into their client base. So that's why in the beginning we take it case by case and we try to work with their sales team on setting those expectations. So when you hear the client and their need and you say, you know what, you could really use a landing page on top of with these paid ads, then we can kind of start to implement those, because really what matters is what serves the client well. Because if the client is served well, then the agency is served well, and then we can, that allows us to be served well. It's a win-win-win all the way around.
Yeah, yeah, 100%. I mean, I'm learning from talking to enough agencies now that the agencies who are able to scale their client revenue, the wallet share of the client, have named each step. So it's like you're getting this deliverable rather than I'm selling you another block of hours, which just seems like more
Right.
chaos to the
Hmm.
client. So I was like really
Mhm.
enthusiastic when I heard you guys had packaged your stuff up with clear names, right? Here's this thing, and then this thing, and this thing, PPC, then landing pages, and SEO.
Mhm.
So, and then like you said, you convince the agency, or you support the agencies in selling it to the client. How are you providing them the sales enablement? Like, are you providing battle cards? What phone calls? Like, what are you doing to help them sell?
Yeah, so a little bit of everything. So we put together sales content, so sales collateral for their sales team. We sit down with them. We'll schedule out, either biweekly calls to kind of educate them on where and when. We make ourselves the account manager. So in the process of partnering with us, there's an account manager assigned to the agency. So whether that, I've been a part of that. We have our account management, Olivia is a part of that. And so what that looks like specifically is we actually work with them on helping them understand where to implement these services into their current client base. And during that process, what happens is they start to understand how to go to market with it, because they're learning more and more about selling points for SEO and selling points for PPC and things like that. So it becomes more of like a kind of like a sales presentation of how to sell this and how to maintain this for your client. And then at the meantime, we're educating them in the services, but also providing that resource for them. So in the once they get that and know that, they understand what they're doing. But in the beginning, we do get on calls with them and their clients, and we help them pitch that. We build out advertising strategies at no cost to the agency. We do it for them, their clients. We help them pitch that, and as well as SEO strategies. We do audits on their websites, things like that.
And how long do you spend on the co-sale motion at the beginning before you let them take the lead on the sales? How long does it take for them to figure it out?
Typically, the average agency is anywhere from, I think, per account manager, they're spending about 10 hours a month on average with an agency. And then within the first 2 months, so about 20 hours total, And then usually they take off. And you're looking at sales teams, a lot of agencies have we've worked with agencies that have 5 sales reps to 40 sales reps. So it scales that way. That's the reason why it scales, because you have 5 people out there representing these services in one agency, and you have 40 in another agency. And so that 20 hours invested from us is educating 40 sales reps at once, which is really nice.
That's amazing. I guess we should, so you've been doing this for how many years now so far? How long have you been in business?
2. Yep. So we've been in business for 2 years, going up on 2 years. And so this was something that Ozzy and I definitely got together on, and we just wanted to serve and help more people. But the first idea was actually a marketing agency, but then we just kind of realized that actually limits us. It really does. And so now that we're doing this, we can confidently say that with every single one agency partner that we sign on, we help a minimum of 10 of their clients each and every year. So that's just a beautiful thing for us, that we can serve more people, do well, serve them well, because we're not in the business of promising something that we can't really deliver or offer on. And so using automation so that we can have more of a relationship with those agency partners is definitely something that we strive for and hope for.
Yeah, I think it's amazing. You've got so far in such a short period of time simply by packaging yourself up in a way that's easy for other people to sell you on to other people, which surprisingly is what I care about because I'm a partnership person. But so thank you so much. How do people find you? That's the last question.
Yeah, they could go onto our website, advirtis.com, and you can find us on LinkedIn. So my LinkedIn is Ozzy Garner, and Zach's is Zachary Conover. And you can find us on there and reach out to us. Our contact information is all over the website. So feel free to reach out to us anytime. We're happy to have conversations and support agencies and all around. We're excited. We're excited to work with everyone.
Amazing. And that's advirtis.com for anyone listening.
Correct.
Yes.
Yes.
Right.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for doing this. I really appreciate the wisdom you guys bring to this agency space. Thank you again.
Thank you.
Sonar. We're very happy to be here. We're excited, and also wanted to thank you for the content you put out there as well. It's been hard to find a good podcast around agencies, and so to be able to connect with other agency owners through your podcast and understand, some of the issues that they deal with, but also some of the tech stacks they work with, things like that, really help us too. So thank you for the content you're putting out there.
I appreciate it. Thank you. And we do buy drinks. We will do that again now the pandemic is over. So drinks are coming.
Hey.
Looking forward to it.
For more great insights on partnerships and software, like and subscribe, and we'll see you in the next video.